What is up, y'all? ButtQueen here. Sorry, just did that to catch your attention. Trust me, I know how watching a YouTube video is. You start it, it's loading, and suddenly you realize it started and you don't have your headphones in. So, hopefully that grabs your attention, and if you already had your headphones in, I am so sorry. But if you watch Jacksepticeye, you're used to it. So, Soulwolf posted a video a couple weeks ago, it was about 2 weeks ago, saying that I would be posting on Mondays, doing stories or poems and reading them to you. That's a little odd for a YouTuber to do, and especially for this channel, seeing as it's video game based. But Soulwolf decided that he wanted something a little different for the channel, something to give it a little variety, and seeing as I had no idea what kind of content I wanted to put on here, since I have no way of recording any games that I play, he decided, hey, why don't you just read to them? Yeah, a little weird, but, you know, apparently I have a nice voice. No idea how he got that. So, I'm going to be reading to you, you're going to be listening to me, hopefully, a story that I wrote myself, and it kind of diverged from my usual path of writing, because usually I do stuff that's a little darker themed, and kind of like Edgar Allan Poe-y. This one's a little nicer, so as for my first video, I figured I'd show this one, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So here we go. Once upon a time, in a world not so different from our own, there was a beautiful and regal goddess. However, she did not rule over the world. In fact, she was low on the chain of gods, her grandfather being the god of all. She was only in charge of a little island that held a small tribe of people, but she loved these people and cared for them far better than the gods cared for their own land. The people of this island worshipped her and the other gods as she had taught their ancestors of the gods, and asked them to worship her family and not just her. She wanted all the gods to love her island and the people as she did. But one day there was an argument in the family of gods, and the young goddess chose, much to the anger of some of the gods, not to be involved, as she did not want harm to come to her small island. Then a large storm hit her beloved island that she had no control over. One of the other gods was attacking her island, but she could not fight back without knowing who sent the storm. She could not fight the god she suspected without entering the family row. All she could do was wait till it passed. Once it had, she descended from the heavens to help her people, only to find that the chief of the tribe had died in the storm, and his handsome yet arrogant son was now the chief. She disguised herself as an old woman and did what she could to help her people, but the new chief realized that this old woman did not belong. He demanded she reveal who she was, so the goddess revealed herself to the people. Instead of groveling or begging for forgiveness for his rudeness, the chief banished her, convincing his tribe that she had caused the storm and wanted to destroy them all. The goddess did not want to bring harm to her people, so she left the island. She ascended into the heavens, going to her grandfather, who was the god and creator of everything. She sought counsel and advice from him regarding her little island and the storm that was sent by a god. Her grandfather said, "Dearest granddaughter, do not seek vengeance on the god who created the storm, but focus your anger on the people. They have banished you and no longer love you. These humans, they come and go, but us gods are forever." She took her grandfather's words, and though it hurt her to do so, she did as he said. Yet she could not bring herself to harm her people. She watched the island from afar. The goddess allowed small storms to come through and inconveniences to occur, but she continued to protect the children of the island, hoping one day they would love her again. Time passed, and the chief grew old and died, passing the chiefhood to his son, who ruled the same as his father, but far worse. He had many wives and children, yet cared for none. He proclaimed himself a god and killed anyone who denied it. But worst of all, he taxed the poor harshly and enslaved one they could not pay. He forced these slaves to harvest the best fruits for him to eat, cut down the highest trees to make his hut larger, and hunt the largest animals for fur and meat. He worked the people until they could work no more. This saddened the goddess to the point of breaking her heart, but she tried to intervene. But her grandfather spoke from above, and his words stopped her. "If you help the dying, they will only be killed again. Let them die and pass on, and be reborn in a new life, away from the island. And so she let them die. But her tears for her people were too much for the heavens to hold. They rained down on the island. The goddess continued to weep for her people, and the rain consumed the island for years. Soon nothing could grow, nothing could stay dry. The island became barren, muddy, wet. The remaining people either died or fled in canoes to escape the island, and slowly the goddess's tears came to an end, and the clouds over the island parted. She saw that they had fled because of her, but she could no longer cry, as she had cried all her tears away. But as she watched her desolate and mucky island, she saw something begin to move. A young mortal boy came out from a cave in the cliffside, left behind by the others who had fled. He was alone on the island with no way to escape. The young boy began to weep, fearing his death, as he saw no other life on the island. But before his eyes, the island became lush and green as the goddess began to regrow the grass and the fruit trees that had once been abundant on the island. The boy was overjoyed, and he built himself a hut and a shrine to the goddess he had once heard stories of. He worshipped her, knowing it must be her doing, as the chief proclaimed to be a god had abandoned him. The goddess, overwhelmed with the joy of being remembered, placed animals on the island to accompany and provide food for the boy. As time passed, the boy grew into a man, caring for the island and the creatures that he had found companionship with. The goddess protected him from heavy rains and the other gods, but because of her obsession over the single man and island, the other gods laughed and joked over the foolish young goddess. Her grandfather spoke to her one day, concerned for her. "Please, my dear granddaughter, move on. I will create a new land for you, larger, with more people to worship you. This man will soon grow old and die, and the island will be barren once again. Watching over him is a waste of your abilities." To that the goddess responded, "I will not leave him, grandfather. I love this island and this man. I will never leave him, and I will not stop caring for my island. Even if I need to go down and till the island of myself, it will not be barren again." Out of anger, her grandfather gave a damning order. "I forbid you from ever stepping foot on that island." But this threat did not sway her. She remained watching over the man and her island. However, her grandfather was correct. As day by day the man grew older, she watched as he saw his animal companions had offspring and then passed. She knew the man was lonely and wanted a human companion, but she did not have the full creation powers of her grandfather, and could not create human life on the island. She also heeded her grandfather's words and did not step foot on the island. Many years passed for the man, but for the goddess it felt only days. The man grew to a great age, and the goddess could no longer stay away. The goddess came down to the island, wanting to speak to the man. He calmly invited her into his home, giving her wine and cheese to drink, for he was too old to hunt and too frail to climb the trees to gather fresh fruit. She smiled at the man. "I have watched you for many years, and you have cared for my island with compassion and love as I do. You worship me even as you have lost your family and been alone." The old man smiled. "I was never alone. I knew you watched over me. You gave me a home, you gave me food, and without you I would have died long ago. I am indebted to you, goddess, and I beg your forgiveness. I will not be able to pay that debt. I am old and will soon die." Tears came from the goddess's eyes as she took his hand in hers. "You do not owe me anything. Because you live, this island lives, and because you live, you have given me a purpose. If anything, I have been selfish keeping you here by yourself, and not taking you to a new and abundant land with people you could be with and love." She knelt before him, and he cupped her divine face in his wrinkled hand. "I do not wish to live amongst the evils of man. I know what men can do, and I am grateful for you. Being here allowed me to live a life of happiness. My only wish is to serve you longer, goddess." The man began to cough violently, and the goddess began to feel his life slip away. The goddess held the man and kissed him. As she did, his body and face began to change. He went from being a frail old man to the young, strong, and handsome man he once was. The man sat up and looked at himself and wept for joy. He praised and thanked the goddess for making him young again. But she looked at him with surprise, as she had not been the one to make him young, for she did not have the power to do so. A shadow appeared in the doorway. It was her grandfather. I was the one who changed you, mortal. The man groveled at the god's feet, thanking him repetitively and praising him. But the god stepped over him and went to his granddaughter. I see now why you love this island and this man. I am happy to see how you have become. But you went against my word and your family. I told you to leave the island and you refused. I forbade you from stepping foot on this island, and yet here you are. So a punishment is in order. The goddess bowed her head. I accept this and await any punishment you bestow upon me. But I wish no harm come to this man and my island. The old god nods. You will stay here on this island with this man. You will live here as a mortal. You must care for him and the island as a mortal until the time of your deaths, and then you will be allowed to return to the heavens. Until that time, I will watch over the island and see no harm comes to you while you live here. The god hugged his granddaughter. She wept for joy. You two shall be prosperous, but you must be kind to one another and your future offsprings. I must go now, but I will be watching. And with that, the god disappeared. The man and now mortal woman lived for many years on the island, having many children and grandchildren. The island became abundant with new life, with the help of the god watching over. Finally, when the man and woman grew to a very old age, they knew their time had come. They said goodbye to their children and went to the cliff where the goddess had first seen the boy. The two lied together in the grass until their souls parted from the earth and rose to the heavens. In place of their bodies, two magnificent birch trees grew, intertwined with one another, as a reminder of the love the man and the goddess shared for each other and the island. The end. Not my typical story that I would write. I'm not really one for cheesy happy endings or romances, but I will admit that was one of my better stories. So, I ask you, anyone who actually watches this video, comment down below if there's any stories you want me to read. I will read you anything. Harry Potter. Done. Reading it. I'm your new audiobook. Let's see, what books do I have up here? Percy Jackson. Reading it. Done. I have a Webster's Dictionary. No idea why, but I will read you the Webster's Dictionary. Any poems, heck, even fan fiction. I will read anything. Gosh, now I sound crazy. Okay, so this is my new thing. Every Monday, I will try to post something. Next week, I hope to be doing a little collab with Soul Wolf, and we'll see how that goes. So, I have no idea what his outro is, but I know he does it in a ridiculously low voice. So have a glorious day.